Hello. Welcome back to the episode 2 of RTA Guide for New Players. And probably this will be the last episode for RTA guides. Then we proceed to the RTA thought process and stuff. And doing real RTA on my Elks account. So let's get it started. First of all, is prebans. Basically, when you start RTA, the first thing we encounter are prebans. And prebans are bans that will round up your draft or basically smooth out your playstyle, or it just makes your life easier so you don't have to deal with them. Some prebans would predetermine your opponent playstyle, while some of them just do not make any sense. Basically, prebans do not make any sense in master rank or below, since I mean, if you have only one prebans, you really can't determine much from their prebans itself because it's just too vague. So we basically skip one preban explanation and yep, let's go to these few common prebans that you will see, and it will determine what kind of playstyle your opponent is. And reminder, they can always pivot their playstyle depending on your draft. So they might have a cleave prebans, and if they, you just go like way too tanky for them, they will just pivot into like aggro or something. The first preban will be Sea Phantom, Politis, and Luna. If you see these kind of prebans, usually your opponents are playing on the slower side. They are not that aggressive and definitely not cleave, but still beware, they might just pivot into other playstyle. And the next one will be Pera and Luna. These kind of players, they are also on the slower side and they might just speed up to play faster, especially Pera Luna will be a very good prebans for ML Lua players too. So just beware of that. And definitely all these prebans without Haseti, just beware, don't draft way too fast at the start because they might just Haseti you on their third pick. So we move on to the next one. Pera Haseti. Pera Haseti prebans are quite you just see them quite often, especially people who love to play ML Lua, because Pera is just one of the biggest threat to ML Lua, and definitely they just prevent Hasati so they can always speed up and play other stuff too. Or they might just go for a debuffer team, since Pera is just such a good cleanser that has evasion on herself and she can just put on a sweet miracle. So just beware of that. While the next preban we'll see a lot, which is Zio Haseti. If you see these kind of prebans, just be careful. They are usually cleavers and they will be playing openers such as, I mean, as of now, the video made usually like, Lidikas without guiding lights, alright, like Ran, not really Ran anymore. Okay, like Bryceria, like Renak. Okay, you see those kind of cleave are coming because those kind of cleave are openers without guiding light, and yes, they are just afraid of Zeus. Well, the next one will be Balian and Haseti. These are also the cleavers preban, and these kind of prebans are usually for the cleavers who love to abuse their soul burns, which usually ends up with Ludwig as their main DPS for their cleave team. So beware of that, and they definitely will first pick Zio or will have Zio in their team. Since Zio is not being pre-banned, so they go for something like, Zio Lidika, Zio Rina, Zio Ren, Zio Brasira, then followed by Ludwig on third for this kind of pre-bans. And yes, just beware, they might just pivot. And the next one will be Imperium, Ilinaf, and Haseti. It's a common prebans too. Don't really say much on this kind of prebans, but it's kind of common. Usually, they are more towards aggro playstyle who just want to have more choice on DPS and rely a lot on defense penetration unit too. So just beware of that. And the next one, not really seen a lot, but I've seen a couple of it, especially up against some Japan players, which is mod plus 1. Whenever you see mod preban, just be careful. They might just go all in counter unit. And yes, definitely beware of Amiki. All right. These kind of players, they might just slam Amiki on third, which is kind of cringe. And the last prebans will be meta unit and another meta unit. This kind of prebans don't really explain much. They are just saying that I just don't want to deal with this kind of bullshit right now. And yep, pretty much that's the common prebans that you will see in the ladder. Now, the next part will be the fun part, which is the drafting part. And since we have third pick band protection, drafting is a bit different compared to the good old days where we don't have third pick band protection, even though we really have like almost for 2 years. And we'll be going through the kind of play styles, and also we'll be going through the drafting process. And when it comes to drafting process, I will not be discussing any draft process for cleavers because new players ain't gonna be cleaving anytime soon. These are a couple of play styles that are usually being played in game. The first one will be the village style. Alright, what is village style? Village style is basically just playing around Hasati. So if you see your opponent that doesn't have a Hasati pre-ban and you don't even pre-ban Hasati, just be careful. Do not like just go like super aggressive or drafting like super fast unit on your 1-2 before they review their Hasati or before their third pick. I mean, if not, you just get punished really, really hard if they happen to draft Hasati. And usually village style will benefits second pick way more than first pick because they have their third pick ban protection right after the first pick. The next will be tank down. Alright, tank down style is just having like really tanky unit to just soak up all damage and slowly wear you down after you're out of field. So basically that's tank down. Then we have the standard. Standard is more of a reactive playstyle that usually draft to counter your enemy draft and usually consists of very well-rounded team which have like openers, mitigation, DPS, and support in their team. So it's a very round off and easy to play style, especially for new players too, because you don't have that much of gears and it's just very new player friendly. And definitely it's one of the highest win rate, even though in high level due to the stability in the playstyle itself. The next would be the aggro playstyle or the aggressive playstyle. Those are the wannabe cleavers, but they just want to play it a bit safer. So usually their draft come with like one fast openers or two fast openers just to secure their opening, and then they'll draft like super strong hyper carriers that were able to take out 1 or 2 units to gain the early advantage over your draft. So basically that's aggro, and the last will be cleave. In self-explanatory, it's just getting turn 1 advantage and just mow you down with damage before you're gonna take a turn. Here comes to the drafting phase, and this is more towards standard playstyle, so it's more new player friendly. As I said, this guy is intended for new players. So when it comes to drafting on your first pick, usually it's either you are on your first pick or your second pick. Your first pick unit or your second pick unit, you want to draft as neutral as possible. So for first pick, we want to draft something very neutral so that we don't get, being pinned down into a very awkward spot. And obviously, one of the most common picks for your first pick will be either the most broken unit as of the video is being made right now. It's either Arunka or Rina. So you see a lot of matches, right? Your opponent is either you pick Arunka and then your opponent pick Rina, or you pick Rina, your opponent gonna pick Arunka. So basically, we just draft the most broken unit just so that our opponent can't have both of the most broken unit themselves. Besides that, the most commonly being first pick are definitely neutral openers. All right, something like Pera, Sylvander Politis. ML Pera, Sylvander Politis, Luna, Lua, or some of them they are playing a bit more slower style. They'll be drafting their mitigation first because those are very, very neutral pick. And beware, if Hasati is not being in the pre-ban, I just be careful not to draft like way too squishy openers like a squishy Sea Phantom Politis, or you're gonna draft your Fire Lidica, which is very squishy unit, and ended up you're gonna get Hasati third. on your opponent's slot. So just be careful on that. And then it comes to the second pick. What do you pick on your second slot? So for second slot, it's basically you're gonna be drafting a very neutral pick too, just so that you won't get trapped by your opponent, or you won't get stuck into a playstyle where your opponent can easily counter you with their 3, 4, 5 picks. So we definitely want to pick something neutral too. All right, unless you have a very, very specific playstyle that your 1, 2, 3 is. It's just your 1, 2, 3 that it works for you. All right, for specific playstyle. If not, for standard playstyle, we just want to go for a neutral pick too on the second pick, which is something like your mitigation if you have already draft an opener on your first. All right, or if you already draft a mitigation on your first, you can go for a opener on your second, or you can always draft a support too. Like, there's always like people drafting like mitigation plus a support on their second, like something like, Ras DN, FCC DN or something like that. Or you can always go for a very neutral DPS too, So beware again, all right? Since it's just your first 2 pick, you don't want to just commit too much, especially when Haseti is open. Like, try not to draft like super squishy unit. Like, all right, and it comes to third pick. Third pick is a ban protection slot. So basically, it's a unit that your opponent can't ban, and definitely you can't ban it on your opponent's side too. So this is the most important pick in the ban phase, like one of the most important pick besides your 3, beside your 4 and 5. And for your ban pick protection, you want to pick something. All right, I mean, if your opponent are still very weak, you can just go for a neutral pick too. If not, try to pick a win condition for yourself. Okay, that's the best practice. Like, a win condition or like a hyper carry or your mitigation, so that your opponent can't just ban off your mitigation. If you only have like one mitigation being draft, especially up against cleavers, you can always draft a CR card on your third slot too. Or what you can actually do is you can draft a unit that counters your opponent 1, 2 or your opponent 1, 2, 3. That's the best practice, because one unit countering 3 unit, that means you're on a very good spot on your draft, because that one unit is able to handle up to 2 to 3 units. And lastly, for your 4th and 5th pick, all right, what are you going to do that? So basically, if your first 3 picks are your openers, mitigation, and a support, or like, opener, support, and a mitigation, so you want to draft a DPS on your 4 and 5, all right, just to make sure that you have enough DPS, all right, for your team. So because if you only happen to draft only 1 DPS, your opponent can definitely just ban your DPS and you ended up with a draft without any DPS. So beware of that, especially on your 4th and 5th pick. If you happen to have your DPS locked on 3rd, or you did have a DPS on your 2nd pick, what you can do is you can definitely draft like 1 more DPS plus 1 more force span. Or what you can do is, if you have a DPS on your 3rd and it's a hyper carry, what you can do is draft something to protect your 3rd DPS. Definitely you want your DPS to survive, or you want your DPS to strive, or just draft something to protect or to synergize with your DPS so that she can shine. Or some players would wanted to draft openers on 3rd. For those kind of players, you want your 4-5 to be something that can synergize or to make your 3rd pick shine. So basically, that's your 4-5 picks. And yep, basically, that's the common drafting phase for most other people. And I mean, some other people will have their own 1, 2, 3 pick formula depending on prebans, or being first pick or being second pick, and the flex on 4-5. Right, those are one kind of play styles too. And I think basically that's all, and hope that all these will help you out in your RTA, and hope you guys learn something from it, and good luck in your climb. I'll see you guys next time in my RTA walkthrough. I'll be playing a lot on my alt account, and I'll be recording them on my top process and playstyle and stuff. All right, and hope you guys enjoy it. See you guys next time. Peace. Ta-ta.